The problem of animal pain. Here's a typical discussion of the problem of evil. God exists. Then why is there so much pain in the world? Something, free will. Pain lets us grow morally, or some such theodicy. One direction the conversation can turn at this point is, well, what about animals? Your theodicies don't work for them. And in many cases, that's true. Relevant differences between humans and all other creatures make classic theodicies useless to explain their suffering. So today we're going to be talking about animal pain. Now at first, this seems like a really difficult problem, but I don't see it as such. The uniqueness of humans, theologically speaking, is a double-edged sword. In the same way that there are some theodicies that work only for human pain, there are many theodicies which can only work for non-human pain. For example, we know that our physical brains are correlated with our conscious experience of reality. Things like neurons firing in our brains lead to mental sensations like pain. Now, if God exists, we would expect this correlation to be ultimately directed by Him. After all, He's the one who created our physical world for the purpose of having conscious creatures. So, how the physical state of the brain leads to our mental states would be orchestrated by God. But this allows the theist to posit that God has established a different set of rules for human and non-human brains. For example, maybe the physical brain states of animals don't have any sort of consciousness at all. There can be pain receptors firing, and this can cause the animal to squeal and try to get away, but there's nothing happening on the level of consciousness. This would make animals akin to robots. They can respond to sensing damage, but there isn't any real experience of pain accompanying it. No amount of studying an animal's brain could prove nor disprove such a hypothesis. Now, how likely is this? Given naturalism, it's not very likely. But I don't see why this would be unlikely if God exists. And the really important question is squaring the existence of God with animal pain, so the likelihood of such a theory given naturalism is irrelevant. Now, you may rightly point out that this view is incredibly counterintuitive. But maybe that's just because our intuitions are misfiring. Humans are constantly looking for signs of emotion in everything around them. Emojis composed of only 2 dots in a line can cause us to recognize emotions, for crying out loud. The same signs we are looking for in humans to judge emotions can even cause us to attribute emotions and mental states to obviously non-conscious things like robots. For example, the WALL-E movie. If we know that this misfiring happens in the robot cases, it seems less crazy to suppose that that's what's happening in the animal cases. Now, another theory a theist could adopt is that, while humans feel pain, animals feel schmain. What's schmain? Well, it causes all the exact same physical reactions as pain, trying to get away, whimpering and all that, but it's not painful. Now, such a mental experience seems hard to imagine, but it doesn't seem to be impossible in principle. One could also adopt any of a multitude of theories about pain. Maybe animals feel pain consciously at only a fraction of how we feel it, but they are far more reactive to it. Or maybe they do have a mental state of pain, but they aren't consciously aware of it, like blindsight. I'm just throwing these ideas out there to give you a sense of the options a theist could have open to them. Now, maybe you have a reason to believe that animals must feel pain in a specific, theologically problematic way that is independent of your stance on God's existence. Well, even then, a theist has options. The problem of animal pain doesn't seem to be the pain in of itself, but that the pain is completely uncompensated. The pleasure in the world is completely outweighed by overwhelming pain. Well, if theism is true, then there seems to be no reason why the pain can't be compensated by an animal afterlife, lasting forever. Or, at least, long enough to outweigh their bad earthly existence. If you want to take that thinking to its limit, you could also just maintain that right before an animal's death, God undetectably gives it an experience of pleasure so great that it makes the animal's life, on average, a good life. But a theist isn't limited to even those options. A theist could simply deny one or more of the hidden assumptions in the argument, like that pain is intrinsically bad, or the implicit denial that the good of existing outweighs the badness of pain, and so on. Essentially, one could mirror the kind of logic discussed in my video on the horrific thesis. Now, I've given you a bunch of theories that, if true, would render animal pain completely unproblematic, or at least close to that. But I have no evidence for any of these theories. In fact, most of these theories could not be empirically supported in principle. So it would be very intellectually dishonest for me to claim that any one of these theories is in fact true. But that's actually a problem for anyone trying to object to God's existence as well. If one wants to actually raise an objection to theism based on animal pain, they would be forced to claim that all these theories about animal pain are false, because if one of the theories weren't false, then animal pain would be unproblematic. But since the objector can't provide evidence that these theories are false, then they can't actually raise the objection. It's an objection built on unprovable assumptions. So your view of animal pain needs to be based on your belief about God's existence, rather than the other way around. This drastically minimizes the problem of animal pain. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this content.